Lord is keeping you safe and you're feeling loved. Today, I want to talk a little bit about when loving others becomes the final boss. Today, there is so much division. You would think the only mathematical language that the human race understood was division, you know, just with the combating. You can't spell the culture without cult, right? Each human population, human community that shares similar ideals and similar ways of connecting and interacting with each other tend to oppose others who think differently, tend to oppose others that don't really align with what they believe in. So we live in a very difficult time where when you love others or try to love others, you're looked at like the weakest link. Right. So I want to talk a little bit about today just why it's so hard to love others. And this is like one of the major commandments that we are given in the Bible. It's almost like it's the highest law. Take my headphones. Let me. Yeah, I want to say it's the highest law. My headphones went out. My microphone went out. I want to say it's the highest law to love others. And I wanted to kind of break down why it's so hard to love others. It's so interesting how God commands us and instructs us on ways that give us a higher likelihood of getting into heaven and just being blessed. And you come to this earth and everything that God is requiring becomes such a mountain to overcome. Love others. You're in a world where no love is weak. You have to put up boundaries. You got to be critical. You got to judge people, right? Be patient. No, we got to get everything right away. It's almost like the world is like the perfect storm to just keep you out of heaven, just to keep you from being blessed, in a lot of ways. And we're blessed to be here. We have life, but then it's like almost like the tree of good and evil, where you got so much challenges and obstacles and so many things that are so anti to God's word. So in today's world, love often feels like the rarest currency. You would think that being loving should come naturally, especially since every human being is shaped by a deep desire to be seen, valued, and connected. It's not like we're in this world born to hate. It's not like we're in this world born with some, in us just to be, you know, so just envious and bitter towards each other. When babies come in the world, ideally they're embraced, they're loved, they're cherished. We're celebrating their, mommy's pregnant, your sister's pregnant. Ideally we're celebrating their life. We're so thankful, we're so grateful for having a beautiful human life. And then it just seems like after the baby's born, hatred over time gets developed, because then you're exposed to the world, then you're exposed to the opinions of others, then you get exposed to a lot of just toxicity. So we're born for a deep desire to be valued, we're born with a deep desire to be connected, right? We don't lose that. Just because we get older, we become adults, we're paying bills, and we're living the adult life, doesn't mean you're less lovable. It doesn't mean that God doesn't love you, or we should hate each other. We're all in this shit. We're all struggling. Everybody at some point in their life has came encounter with a struggle, you know? And it just blows my mind. Like, I love being a Christian. I've studied many different religions, many different cultures. I don't have any beef with them. In my mind, I'm like, well, I'm not God. I can't judge these people. If you don't want to be a Christian, that's your choice. That's between you and the Most High. You want to be a Buddhist? That's between you and God. You want to be a Hinduist? You want to be whatever? That's between you and the Lord. But I don't have to hate you, right? I'm not mad at you. I'm not looking at you like, damn, you're not a Christian. Fuck you. I'm not. That's just not me. But then, it's almost like then you get shunned by the Christian community in some ways, because they're like, well, no, you have to have these hard and fast principles. You got to have these hard, fast beliefs, Randy. You're not really a true Christian. So I just feel like sometimes humans, we can be our own worst enemy. We can be our own. It's like, fuck the devil. We can be our own devil. It's like we don't need help. Shit, just put a whole bunch of jealous ass humans. And I'm not trying to be negative about it, but I'm just paying attention to shit. And I'm just like, damn, like, people are losing food stamps. We got a match made in heaven, right? With this whole three-eye atlas shit. Then we got the housing market is crashing. People are suffering. And I look on certain spaces and I'm just like, damn, it's just, you would think all we know is just to, not everybody, because you got loving people out there, but just to be hateful, right? So it says, yes, somewhere along the way, love became complicated. The pace of life, the pressure to survive, and the expectation to always protect yourself have made genuine love feel risky. When your heart has been bruised or betrayed, letting it open again doesn't feel like love. It feels like danger. So now you got to deal with the human nature. Maybe you've been hurt. Maybe you've been heartbroken. Maybe your parents failed. They were arguing and fighting every day, so you don't know what love looks like. So now you got like a little wound there. You got like a little gunshot wound. So when you go out and you try to love, you got to carry that vulnerability of, man, I hope they don't touch this wound. My parents were struggling, right? Or I didn't feel love. Maybe my parents were great, but I was the second sibling, so I didn't get as much love as my older sibling, right? So we're already just being human, coming in situations where love is already fragile. Nobody's perfect. No family's perfect, right? Me and my wife are having issues right now, and I'm just thinking like, damn, like, you know, and it's not to judge her or anything like that, but I'm just like, damn, where's the love? Like, you're not going to get in a relationship where it's perfect, where you're not going to have conflict, where you're not going to have arguments. I've been doing therapy for over damn near 13, 14 years. And a lot of times it's the people who go to counseling that in some ways have more sense, because at least they're trying to get guidance. They're trying to get some sort of like mentorship or answers, right? And a lot of times the people who are like, oh, the hell with counseling, a lot of times those are the ones that are most fucked up, because you can't live this life alone. You can't figure out this shit alone. We need help. We need a community, right? So it's like being human. Your parents may not have worked out. Maybe you were hurt by your ex-girlfriend, your ex-boyfriend. So now you're already looking at people with a side eye and shit, right? It happens all the times. Dudes get hurt, all women ain't shit. Women get hurt, all men are dogs. I grew up hearing that shit, right? So it's just so easy for us to group everybody up in the same basket because of our personal histories, right? So there's already all these different risks with loving each other. It says you live in a culture that tells you to guard your heart, not from foolishness, but from vulnerability. Society has taught you that the person who cares less, they hold the power, right? And the one who feels more is the one who loses. Love became a battlefield instead of a foundation. So you learn to detach, to prejudge, to assume the worst so that the worst cannot hurt you. You tell yourself it's wisdom, you're so wise, but it's often fear wearing a wise mask. Modern humanity is also shaped by constant comparison. You see lives polished online, and you measure your heart against illusions. You begin to believe love must look perfect, constant, and instantly reciprocated, right? You guys are on Instagram. We're all on Instagram, right? We're all on Instagram. We're all on social media, and we're looking at everybody else have it all together, and we're thinking like, man, my situation isn't like this, or they must not love me. My wife, she didn't propose to me, so she must not love me. Or my husband, he didn't give me an offer of 5 different rings, so he must not love me. Why not? Right? You got people out there who just completely don't even believe in love. They're just like, you know what? I'd rather just be single my whole damn life. No family, no kids, whatever. I'll just give my cousin something for Christmas. I don't even want a fucking family. But you can't tell me you're not hurting inside when you're seeing the holidays come up and people with their fucking kids, women loving on their husbands, husbands loving on their wives. You can't tell me you're not fucking suffering inside. You got to be an AI generated ass robotic motherfucker to tell me if you're going to choose a single life for the rest of your life, you're not hurting inside when you see happy families, when you see people with their kids, right? Unless you're just completely cut off from humanity, right? And I'm not mad at you. Everybody don't got to have kids. Everybody don't got to have a wife. Everybody don't have a husband to be happy. I'm not judging you, but it's just like, damn, what's a world where everybody's just alone? And it's just everybody fitting for themselves and shit, right? But you want sex, you want to make love. Porn is $1 billion industry, so you must want some type of pleasure, right? So when love becomes performance instead of presence, relationships lose their humanity and become transactions. You are left feeling emotionally exhausted and spiritually undernourished, yet your soul still longs for love. That longing is not weakness, it is proof of who you are. Being loving today is hard, not because love is fading, but because the world has hardened itself to survive. Real love is counterculture. Loving in this generation means choosing death in a shallow world, patience in an instant world, and vulnerability in a defensive world. And that is courage. All right. So reasons why being loving is so hard today. One, you've been hurt before, right? Love requires trust, and every betrayal makes trust feel like self harm. So you build emotional walls, armor, even when your heart still wants to connect. You live in a culture that celebrates independence over interdependence. You are praised for not needing anybody, even though your spirit was built for connection. You fear being misunderstood. When you open your heart, you open the possibility of being misread, judged, or dismissed. And that fear silences your expression. Your nervous system remembers the pain you've been through your past. Emotional wounds become survival patterns. Your body reacts to love like it reacted to the person who hurt you. A lot of these relationships are not even really real relationships, especially if you come out of trauma. You got to go to therapy and you got to work on yourself. You got to heal. A lot of us come from all kind of trauma, cultural trauma, racial trauma, economic trauma, just you name it. It's just trauma left and right. And trauma is nothing but just a fancy way of saying just overwhelming stress. you know, and you got to work on that shit, And what we do, we come out of a traumatic situation, and I'm guilty of this too. And you rush right into a new relationship. This person's going to be better. This person's going to get it. This relationship is going to work. They understand me. They love me. It was my ex. They weren't good enough. They didn't know me. No, we start beating up people from our past, right? But this was the person that you love, right? This is the person you had kids with. This was the person you married. Now they're demonized, right? Oh, she didn't understand me enough, man. She wasn't really down for me. So it's like now the other person that you're in a relationship with, the new person, are they really new? Or are they just an opportunity for you to project some of those old patterns onto them, right? Now they're responsible for your past hurt that you didn't heal. And any sort of indication or indicator that they mirror your history, they're discounted, right? They're counted out. Any sort of conflict or argument, and it makes you, because a lot of times it's not the argument that breaks up relationship, it's that familiar feeling from your past, right? When your ex maybe hurt you or abused you, right? Where your girl maybe cheated on you and you had that wound there, right? So all the external stuff, the arguments, the conflict, the differences, that's everyday shit. Every family, every couple is going to have differences because you're two human beings coming from two different worldviews, two different backgrounds, right? Even twins have different perspectives, right? And they grew up in the same family, right? But they have different worldviews, right? But we have these crazy irrational assumptions that, if you with me, you gotta be just like me. Shit, if I like M&Ms, I don't give a fuck about your Skittles. You better like these M&Ms. It's just really irrational shit humans engage in. It's like you think that a person come from a different part of the world, different culture, different mindset. Even if you both black, all black people don't think alike, right? And we think, you got to be like me. You got to think like me. You got to have my mindset. It's narcissism, right? People are going to be different than you. People are going to have difference of opinions, different value systems. That's what makes us human. God made each of us unique to play a unique role in this machine. All right. So it's not a bad thing. It's just how can you come together, right? So you've been taught that emotions are weakness. So instead of allowing yourself to even feel emotions, you either shut down or you're overperforming strength. You compare your love to other people's love. You're looking at others' highlight reels and their Instagram posts, and you assume love is insufficient or your love is insufficient or unworthy. You mistake attachment for love. So when someone pulls away or disappoints you, you assume the love has failed. You equate vulnerability with losing control. But love is the willingness to surrender control. And that level of surrender feels unsafe for you. You don't always know your own needs. So when you are disconnected from yourself, you cannot offer authentic love to someone else. All right. You've learned to give love, but not receive it. So you push away any compliments, right? Any support or affection, believing that receiving makes you look needy. You fear loving more than you are loved. Unequal love feels like humiliation, so you keep the score instead of being open. You confuse peace with distance. You withdraw to feel safe, but sometimes that is just loneliness in disguise. You are desensitized by overstimulation. Constant noise, screens, and distractions make it hard for you just to slow down enough to even feel deeply. You don't always feel loved by yourself. When you struggle to love yourself, Offering love to others feels draining instead of abundant. And you're still healing, last but not least. And that's all right. Okay. Love is not hard because you lack the capacity. Love is hard because your spirit is still learning how to trust its own softness again. All right. So I'm not going to be on here long, man. I got to work. It just hurt my heart, man. Just the division. The only math that humanity knows is division, right? They don't give a damn about multiplication and addition, right? Or they extract addition and multiplication for their benefit, and after it doesn't work for them anymore, we go into division, right? So salute to you people out there that do still believe in love. God is love, right? Everybody want to be holy. I think Christianity and all these world religions are popping off more than ever. But then you look out the window, man, and it just looks like a loveless world, man. So sometimes it just brightens my day, man, just to see people greet each other, show each other respect. It don't matter what culture you come from, what your belief system is. Love is a universal language. Just respect, compassion, grace. Hey, I see you. Hey, I understand this human thing is hard. I get it, right? So if you get anything out of this message, man, don't be afraid to love. That's the only cure. There is no other medicine. All right. The hate, the division, and it's okay to have your opinion and not to agree with other people. I'm not saying you gotta submit, to a value system that you don't resonate with. It's okay to have differences of opinion, but it's like a house divided against itself can't stand, right? So hope you guys have a blessed day. I didn't want to cut off the comments and things like that, but sometimes it's hard for me to really go into just some little bit of some wisdom for the day because I'm tracking all the messages and stuff like that. But I love you guys. Appreciate you showing out, And if anything, man, just don't you know abandon love, right? Even if you don't feel like you have love in your body, or you feel like nobody loves you, or you don't feel like you know it's possible, or love is nothing, that's weakness. That's all bullshit, dude. What the fuck is this dude talking about? But there's nothing else that's going to save you from the pain and the hurt and that hatred that you have for yourself and others but love. All right, so you guys have a blessed day, man. I'm out.